Welcome to the weekly webinar. This has been organized for QuickSight customers to learn about product functionalities, the new feature launches, best practices, and tips on how to improve the user experience and gain technical knowledge from QuickSight solution architect and product managers. I am Ashok Dasanini, QuickSight solutions architect with AWS, and I have my colleague Karthik Dharmarajan who will be presenting the demo today. And we also have Deepak and Kaushik, solution architects from our team, who will be moderating the webinar and responding to your questions. And we'll be posting in the community. And for the session today, we will be discussing about single sign-on experience configuration using Identity Center and how you can use external identity providers and do the user and group sync. So now, where do you go if you have a question about the QuickSight? So QuickSight community is one-stop shop for all your BI journey. This is the place to connect with other QuickSight users and is the first place you can look for answers for your questions. You can search for answers, ask questions, connect with other users, and find new resources. And we also post all the latest announcement, events, and blogs, learning resources here, including many examples created by me and my colleagues in our Demo Central sections too. So not to miss any of our weekly online learning series scheduled every Tuesday 10 a.m. Pacific and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central European time. And we also have monthly online events on first Friday focusing on new features. And second and third Wednesday, we will be doing immersion days. And every fourth Thursday of the month, we will have live Q&A session with our experts. So if you don't have signed up for the QuickSight community, now it would be the great time to join the community and bookmark it for future reference. You can log into community.amazonquicksite.com, or you can use the QR code that I'm sharing on the screen to access the community page. So once you join the QuickSight community page, here is what Q&A section looks like. And let me quickly walk you through how you can post the questions. This is just to make sure our experts on the live session get your answers quickly and with a specific tag. Let me quickly walk you through that. So this is our community page, QuickSight, community.quicksite.com. And here, when you scroll down, you can see the question and answers. So to post your question on any of the topics that we're going to discuss today, click on new questions here. Sample question. And for the tag, specifically created one for the session today, it's QLS-Identity Center. You can find this tag and post the question. Just add it. Okay. So once you do that, the questions will be popped up into queue. And to do so, you need an ID. If you're doing it for the very first time, please sign up to the QuickSight community page. And going back to the presentation. And today's session will be recorded, and we'll have this posted on our YouTube channel and also to the community by end of the weeks. And let's take a look into agenda for the day. We are going to discuss about Amazon QuickSight and overview of AWS Identity Center, the architecture of integrating the Identity Center as a single sign-on experience to QuickSight, and how you can map the external identity provider like Octa for identity source. And also we'll be seeing the demo showcasing how to set up this QuickSight app integration to Identity Center. And for the demo today, we will be using Octa as our external identity provider to perform user and group sync. And at the end of the session, we will share the reference documentation links where you can find more information on the setup. So let's take a look at what is QuickSight and how it is compared to legacy. In the legacy system, the diversity of business intelligence use cases and data format needs has resulted in a fragmented approach with multiple systems and various versions of truth. Organization may have to maintain multiple systems, like one for running the paginated reporting and another for self-service to BI, and another for embedded analytics, and one other tool for forecasting and finding anomalies like ML activities. Each of these separate tools have their own user interface, governance challenges, and require specialized training and teams to manage each. Whereas on the other hand, coming to Amazon QuickSight, instead of struggling to work with disjointed legacy systems, the QuickSight enables customers to use and only manage one unified modern solution to serve each of all the BI use cases. And QuickSight's unified solution simplifies the management and governance and provides faster time for the insights in customer desired format. Moving on to IAM Identity Center, which is successor of AWS Single Sign-On. So what has changed in this? So it is new service name, a new console experience, and improved navigation. However, there are few technical changes and no API changes made at this time. Coming to the AWS IAM Identity Center helps you to securely create or connect your workforce identities and manage their access centrally across AWS accounts and applications. And IAM Identity Center is the recommended approach for workforce authentication and authorization on AWS for organizations of any type. Just doing a little more deeper dive. So with IAM Identity Center, you can choose one of these identity stores like Active Directory, external identity providers, or AWS IAM Identity Center itself as a source. So let's just quickly discuss on each of these topics. So first, using Active Directory, AWS IAM Identity Center lets you pick up between Identity Center Windows Active Directory or Azure Active Directory or other SAML 2.0 identity providers as your source for identities for sign-in. If you're just getting started, you can create users and groups inside AWS IAM Identity Center. Or if you are using AWS Directory Service to support Windows workloads on AWS Cloud, Identity Center enables you to sign in with your Active Directory and credentials without setting up additional infrastructure. And if you're using Azure Active Directory, the Identity Center makes your users and groups available across AWS accounts and the single sign-on integrated applications automatically. The best of all, you only need to connect your identity source to Identity Center one time to make the user and groups available for entitlements in all your AWS organization accounts. Moving on to external identity providers, AWS IAM Identity Center is now SAML 2.0 service provider. This allows to accept inbound SAML requests for or authentication from external IDPs, including Azure AD, Octa, OneLogin, or Ping Identity. And the other version of it is AWS IAM Identity Center supports inbound SCIM requests, which allows external identity providers for provisioning and enabling customer to manage their user and groups at one place. For the demo today, we will be showcasing how the external IDP and how to sync users and groups from Okta. This particular feature of synchronizing the users and groups, directly pushing it from external identity provider to identity center and to the QuickSight. This feature is currently in beta and will be released for end users soon. Let's take a look at the architectural flow. So there are two versions that you can do with Identity Center. The first architecture, what we're looking at here is user logs into the devices and gets authenticated through IAM Identity Center, which acts as a single sign-on and which lets user to land into the page where they can choose which of their accounts they would like to access. So it can be one single sign-on experience which has been connected to multiple AWS accounts. This is the architecture one. And this access and identity center integration enables you to sign up for QuickSight account using IAM Identity Center configured identity source. And this allows you to configure your existing identity provider as identity source, or you can also use IAM Identity Center as a store itself. Moving on to the architecture 2, this is what we're going to try in our session today. So in this case, the only difference is the user gets first authenticated through external identity provider. And for the demo today, as I mentioned, it was going to be Okta. And from there, user lands into IAM Identity Center. From there, the experience will be seen where the user can pick any of the AWS accounts or external apps that has been integrated into IAM Identity Center. With this integration, the QuickSight account administrators will be able to create the new QuickSight account that will have identity providers groups automatically available in QuickSight to simplify the asset sharing at a scale in QuickSight. And once again, this feature is currently in beta and soon to be released. So that's a quick intro about for the session today. Let's move on to the demo. Karthik.
Thanks, Ashok. That was a wonderful QuickSight overview and also the Identity Center integration architecture overview. Let's jump into the demo. Let me see if I can present my screen here. Let's start off with identifying our external IDP, right? So in this case, as Ashok in his overview mentioned, we'll be using Octa for today's demo. So we'll start off our journey by logging into Octa as an administrator. And there are 3 or 4 key activities that we'll have to carry on within Octa. So the first one would be creating the users, adding them to specific groups, and then creating the QuickSight application, and then provisioning users into that application. And then finally pushing the groups information from Octa into Identity Center, and from there into QuickSight. However, for Octa and Identity Center to communicate, there is additional configuration steps that we'll have to go through, but I'll talk about it as we make some progress here. So let me first log in as an administrator here. Also, I'd like to let you know that I'll be jumping back and forth between the Okta screen and the Identity Center admin screen. So now that we have logged into the Okta developer account as an admin, and let's go into the directory. And let's start off with the users. So in the interest of time, I have created 3 personas up front. So there is going to be one person who will play the QuickSight author role. We'll call it as demo author. We'll create another user. We already have another user who play the QuickSight reader role. We'll call it demo reader. And then I'll log in as myself, who will be also playing the role of QuickSight administrator. So we have created 3 personas here. Now let's start off by creating the corresponding groups. So let me go into the groups tab and create corresponding groups. So we'll start off with QuickSight admin group. QuickSight author group. And then finally, QuickSight reader group. So now that we have created users and groups, let's go ahead and click on the applications tab and try to add an application. So in this case, we will be adding the AWS Identity Center application. So you'll be federating the user from Okta into Identity Center, and from Identity Center into QuickSight. So we'll be technically adding our QuickSight application into IDC. But as first step, we'll just have to ensure we add the Identity Center application within Okta. So let me browse for the application here. So let's start the keyword AWS, and then it's going to come back with the options. I'm going to choose IAM Identity Center, click on Add Integration, click on Done. Let's go back to our application tab to ensure we have our IAM Identity Center application added, which is good. So let me click into the application, and on top you would see multiple tabs. So each tab has specific informations or details that you'll have to either provide or copy certain details over back to Identity Center. So starting off with the general tab here, so pretty much I'm going to leave all the options default here. There is no major updates or changes needed under the general tab. Moving on to the sign on tab. So this is where we'll be sharing information between Identity Center and Okta itself, right? So there is some metadata file, the XML, the SAML assertion metadata file that we'll have to download. So let's go download that information. I'm going to copy the metadata URL, open a new tab, and then save this file. We give this metadata 2023, 30. All right, so we have the metadata file downloaded. So this is information that we will upload back into our Identity Center. Scrolling further down, you'll also see some information that we'll have to fill from Identity Center here. So of course, we don't have the configuration in Identity Center done yet. So we'll have to come back to the screen. Also, rest of the tabs, I think we can make progress once we make some changes in the Identity Center. So I'm just going to bring the Identity Center configuration screen now. I'm going to log into my AWS account. Look for IAM Identity Center. Let me go ahead and enable the Identity Center. All right, so we are on the landing page of AWS IAM Identity Center. So there is some useful information here. It also gives you an overview of the steps that is involved to make some basic configurations and setup to make this working. Let's start with choosing our identity source. So by default, this is now configured for the identity directory itself. However, for this demo, we are going to integrate with Octa like I mentioned earlier. So let's try and choose change identity source. And now I'm switching from the default option to the external identity provider option. Clicking on next. So now Identity Center also has the option to download the metadata file, which has all the details that goes back into the Octa configuration screen. Let me copy that over, but before I do that, there's an option to upload the details from Octa into Identity Center. So let's do that first. So I'm going to choose file and choose the file that we just exported out of Octa. We did that. And now I'm just going to copy over the information. You can either download or you can copy over the information. So I'm just choosing to copy over the information. Let me have my other screen here. So let me go ahead and click on edit on the sign on tab. So all of this details under SAML 2.0 setting, that's going to be default. I'm not tweaking anything there. However, on the SSO ACS URL, that's the one that we copy over from Identity Center. So you see it says IAM Identity Center assertion consumer service URL. So I'm going to copy that over. Come back to my other tab where I have Octa configuration. I'll input that. I'll also copy over the issuer URL. Copy that over. For credential details, for now, I'm just going to pass on the Octa username, which could be the email address itself, and then go ahead and click on save. So I have the sign on tab configured here. Now let's again switch into the Identity Center screen. So we have uploaded the Octa configuration file here, so we should be good. So let's go ahead and click on next. I'm going to accept. And I'm going to click on change identity source. So now I'm going to hook this up with the external identity source. All right, so it says I have successfully changed the identity source, which is good. Now, as soon as we see that screen, you should see additional information in this panel here on top. So I'm more interested in the automatic provisioning, like Ashok mentioned in his presentation, that we are going to sync the groups from an external IDP into QuickSight, right? So we want to ensure that provisioning is enabled. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And there are two key information that we have to copy over to the Okta configuration screen again. So let's do that. So I'm going to copy the SEIM endpoint. Now going back into my Okta screen, let's go into the provisioning tab. And then under integration, we have to pass on the URL and the access token. So the API connection can be established between Okta and Identity Center. So let me click on configure API integration. And there's a checkbox. Let's key in the URL. Just ensure you don't have any trailing forward slash towards the end. It might give you some weird error message. Now going into the IDC screen again, I'm going to copy the access token this time. Back to my Okta screen. And then let's click on test API to ensure the connection works. So it looks like it did accept the base URL and the token. I'll go ahead and click on save. And once we do that, now to provision to the app, there are certain features that we want to enable, right? So let me go ahead and click on edit. We are still under the provisioning tab of the Okta configuration screen. So anytime I create users, I want that to be synced with Identity Center. So I'm going to enable that. Attributes, yes, we want to enable that as well. If you happen to deactivate or remove users or groups, we also want to keep that in sync. So we'll also enable that. So essentially all the three options are enabled. So from the attribute mapping perspective, I'm just going to leave it default, no changes there. Go ahead and click on save. So I have my integration configuration done here. Back into the IDC screen. Let me close this off. Wonderful. So let's take a look at the users tab within Identity Center, the groups tab. So currently we don't have any information here. Now the idea is to have the users attached to the application, the Identity Center application that we created in Okta to be available within Identity Center just by pushing a button, right? So let's test that out. So going back to the Okta screen, now let me go into the assignments tab. So either you can start assigning individual users to this application within Okta, or we could also add groups. So, but we are for this demo, we are focusing more on the group sync. So let's go ahead and add groups. If you add groups, all members who are part of the group will also be pushed automatically, right? But before we do the assignments, let's go back to the directory tab and ensure we have added folks into the groups that we created. So it looks like we don't have any users added into these groups. So let's start off by adding the reader person into the reader group. Clicking on assign. So I'm going to add the demo reader. Done. Going back to groups. Let's add the demo author into the author group. So I have demo author. And finally, I'll add myself into the admin group. All right, so we at least see there is one user per group, which is good. Now let's head back to the application tab and look for IAM Identity Center. And within that, let's look for the Assign tab and assign the groups. Let's start off with the admin group. Let's assign the author group. And finally, the reader group. You should see all these three groups show up here. You look at the people tab, because we added the groups, all the folks within that group are also part of this application now, which is good. Now, finally, let's try to push this information over to IDC or Identity Center. So under the Push Groups tab, we have this option to push the groups. So I'm going to find the groups. So in this screen here, it says there is no match found. So what do I do if there is no match? I'm just simply going to create that group. But eventually when you sync again, if the group already exists, it is just going to refresh the user list. So let's click on save. So now let's look at the status. It says it's pushing and now it is active. Let's follow the same steps for rest of the groups here. Author, save and add another one. Quicksite, reader. So now you should see all the three groups now being pushed from this application into Identity Center. But let's go back to our Identity Center screen and try to refresh and see if we can see those groups show up here. All right. So all the three groups that we added to that application within Octa, and by pushing the details, we are able to see them here. Let's take a look at the users tab, and we should also see those corresponding users show up here. So at this point, this is an indication that your integration is working fine. You're able to successfully push users and or groups from the assigned applications from your external IDP into Identity Center. However, we still don't have the QuickSight application added into Identity Center yet. So let's do that as our next step. To do that, I don't have the QuickSight subscription turned on in this account. So let me use the API, the create account subscription API to turn on QuickSight. And with certain details, I'll just walk you through that step. This is just for preview, but when this feature goes GA, you should also be able to subscribe from the UI itself. Let me quickly copy over the command. All right, so let's try to break this down here real quick. So I'm just calling the create account subscription. This is going to be an enterprise edition, and this is going to be in the US East 1 region. However, the authentication method is the IAM Identity Center. That's the key information that you're passing in here, followed by the account number, the name of the QuickSight account, and the notification email, and the three groups that we will be able to identify when we subscribe, the QuickSight admin group, the author group, and the reader group. Let's go ahead and run this. So this should take like few minutes to spin up the account. While that is happening, we can now go back to our IDC screen and refresh the screen. And let's see if that takes effect here. Let's go into the application tab. And now you can see the new QuickSight account that I just subscribed to is part of my Identity Center, because I explicitly mentioned my authentication method is IAM Identity Center, and I also associated with the groups that I have in my Identity Center, which was originally pushed from Octa. So this application is now linked up. Let's get into the application. It says the status is active, and just want to ensure we have the three groups. Automatic access to this QuickSight application that we just created. So it looks like we are good here. Now let me log into my dashboard as an admin and test this out. So I see the application AWS IAM Identity Center. So when I log into Octa, so the Octa dashboard will list all the applications that have access to. So IAM Identity Center was one application that we gave access to the admin group. So that's what is visible here. So let me click into that. And now this should direct me to the Identity Center page, which it did. And now it is showing me access to all the applications that I have access to within Identity Center. And we just integrated QuickSight, or we subscribe to QuickSight account. So that is what is shown here. So let's click on it. And now clicking on that application should log us into our QuickSight account as an admin. Okay, so this one worked. Let me just click on the analysis. And share this analysis as a dashboard. Call this So I just published a dashboard and I want to share this dashboard with other folks. So let's see what options we can see here. So let's see if we can find our groups here. So it was QuickSight author group. Yes. Now you can automatically see the groups show up here. Let's just give this a co-owner permission. And I'm also going to search for QuickSight reader group. And we'll give it a viewer permission. So you can see how seamless this whole process was. Automatically those groups show up here. Going back to the dashboard. Let me try to open up another private window here. So we can try and log in as another person and see what happens. So maybe let's log in as a reader. Okay, so I can see the application that I have access to. Let me click on Identity Center. That should take me into the Identity Center and the application that I have access to from there. Again, I see my QuickSight account that we just created. Let me click into that. And now I should be federated into QuickSight as a reader. And I should also see the dashboard that I just shared as an admin. So you can see I'm a reader here and I only have access to the dashboard that I just shared. Let's also try to quickly test the login for the author, just to ensure everything is working as expected. Logging in as author. Clicking on the application again and federating into QuickSight. So now I should see the dashboard that I shared and also the analysis, because I'm an author, so I should also see additional analysis. Okay, so I have the sample analysis. Let's take a look at the dashboard. I have the same dashboard that I shared as an admin with both author and reader. All right, so with that, we conclude our demo. Hope this was useful. The idea was to show how seamless this whole end-to-end integration can be. And it is super easy now to maintain all your groups and users in an IDP like Octa or any other external IDP. And Identity Center will be able to sync with that external IDP, bring over those users and groups, which can also be seamlessly passed into QuickSight. And then you can use those groups again to permission assets within QuickSight like dashboard analysis, data sets, data sources, so on and so forth. With that, I will hand it over to Ashok to continue his presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Karthik. That's a great demo to see end-to-end integration.
Let me make you the presenter.
Got it. And here are the reference links on the topics that we discussed about IAM Identity Center integration for Amazon QuickSight, the reference documents for how to run the CLI API, and Identity Federation and SSO with Amazon QuickSight, and other links related to QuickSight community, feature demos, and learning series links. All these links, what I'm sharing here on the screen, will be posted along with the videos by end of this week. And we have reached the end of the session today. And before closing, here are the details about our next session, visualizing data with radar chart and scatter plot. And we will review the new UI features that were released recently and options like support for visualizing unaggregated data and new label field wells. Okay. With that, please share your feedback or using the links provided here. And once again, thank you for joining the session. Have a great day.